as women, it's been said by a lot of my teachers and mentors, particularly Dr. Christine Page, who actually was on my show, friggin' phenomenal, just a modern day medical mystic, that's for sure. Very, very tapped in, a lot like Roseanne, but on another level because she's a medical doctor too. But she talks about how for women in particular, the real power of our voice, and I don't mean just literally our voice, like as in the sound of it, but also metaphorically in finding our voice and, having our boundary emotionally and speaking our truth and having courage in that sense of our voice, because voice can have different meanings. She talks about how there's a very distinct difference in a woman who speaks from her womb, from her second chakra, which is the hip region, the genitals, that area of the body, and one who speaks from her fifth chakra, which is the throat. And it's a very different resonance. It's a different frequency. And not only is it a different sound, pitch, tone, all that, but it's received differently in its effectiveness, its power. I have felt like, frankly, it's a lifelong journey to make that travel from speaking from my throat chakra, which is the masculine chakra, and up here, closer to the head, and bringing that left brain mentality and dropping down into the body, embodying my body, and connecting with my feminine essence and the power of my creative center, which is the power center as well, the second chakra, womb space. And sometimes it's still a struggle for me. I don't do it all the time, but I've even noticed sometimes when I'm speaking, my voice tone is different, and I'll think about what's going on with me emotionally at the time or wherever I'm at, my stress level, whatever. My hydration, my sleep, all the foundational principles, and I notice a big difference, in that tone, pitch, and like, yeah. And, things that land, things that don't land, things that are said with power. And I don't mean aggression. I mean, there's a difference between aggression and power. But I think this is a very interesting conversation, Allison. It's fascinating, and I'm very thrilled and grateful that it went this way because, your book is fabulous with so much we can talk about. But I think that among the many unique, powerful things your book offers, this information on your own personal experience with vocal toning and how that's changed you. I mean, to say it literally changed your body is like mind-blowing,
Yeah. And like you're saying, I want to address what you're saying, Amy, about the lower chakra of the sacral chakra for women. Yes, we store so much in that area. It's our lower creative space. It's our lower creation, which is really important to connect with your higher creativity of expression, which is the throat. So it's like, if you're not connecting, like you say, the sacral with the throat, you are going to have, you're not going to have as deep of a resonance with people, right? And yourself, because you're always going to be, it's closer to the head. So we're over intellectualizing instead of really feeling into what we're saying, because really it's not about words so much as it's about the frequency that you're putting out with your voice, right? Is what I'm finding out. So, because many, I've talked to Paul about this before. Many sages are very simple with what they're saying. It's nothing hugely complex,
almost
it's
always they get reduced. Yep.
Right. And so,
yep.
And so, so one thing that I experienced that was really interesting, this past March, when I went to Ojai for a workshop, and then I went to Paul's sound healing workshop a week after that. So I was in that area for a couple of weeks, and I experienced what you're talking about. And so I wanted to share this story because this is extremely powerful for women in our wombs, because, we've all been born. Some of us have had babies and some of us have not. And so I went through this breath work, this holotropic breath work session with this guy who was amazing. He's an amazing guide through this experience. And I wasn't expecting any of this to happen, but, I told myself, I was like, okay, I'm going to be open to this. I'm going to just see whatever comes up. And what came of it, it became an opportunity for me to really clear the things that have been blocking my voice for so long, things that I was holding in from past experiences. And it really came down to both my birth and my birthing of my two kids. So I was laying there, doing the breath work and holding space for it. And then all of a sudden, I felt all this tension in my body, which is very common in this kind of thing. And I was like, oh my God, this tension is coming up and I'm supposed to be relaxing. And I'm sitting here like kind of almost like criticizing myself. And then I'm realizing, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go with it, see what happens. I'm going to be open. And this voice came in really strong saying, you cannot contain this. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, all right, well, let's not contain it then. Let's not contain it. So I said, okay, well, I'm not going to try to hold it down or anything. And so wow. What came up, I felt this energy come up from the womb area up to my throat. And I just let out this scream of like, it was basically a scream of a woman who was in labor, which I didn't actually get to do. When I was in labor with my first son, the nurse, I was screaming and she said she asked me to shut up. And it was really a terrible experience, being in the hospital, and they sent me home a bunch of times. So for me, that was more traumatic than I realized. And I was holding that scream in because I wanted to scream. I was in labor. I was in pain. I wanted to be able to let that out. Right. And so I was holding that scream, that voice that I wanted to, use in that moment in my life, which is, if you're going to scream at any time in your life, it should be during labor, because that's a perfect time to do it. You don't need to contain that. So I was able to have that opportunity to do that, have a do-over with that part of my life, which was an incredible gift. And I'd always held that in because I just didn't want people to think there was something wrong with me or that I was hurt or, I needed some help. And so that came up for me. And so I was like, literally, this was an out of body experience. I was in a whole, it was a journey. Then this takes me over to when I was actually being born. And so now I'm a baby.
This is the same time?
My infant self. Yeah. This switches over to my infant self. And I'm screaming like a baby. Like, I'm like, literally, like I'm hearing myself, like I sound like an infant. And it was so weird. And I was like, oh, so maybe I didn't actually get to cry when I was born or something. Maybe I didn't get to use my voice when I was born. And I got to do that over again. And I got to experience everything. And I was looking around and I was like, oh, where's my mom? And I couldn't find her anywhere. And then I said, oh, there. And then so what I did to help myself in that moment, I gave myself what I needed at that moment of time. And I said, oh, there she is. And I reconnected with my mother. And so by the end of this whole thing, it's kind of hard to explain because, it's a journey, and it's, when you're it's kind of like an ayahuasca, if you're in ayahuasca, it's hard to explain what really happened or how that felt to people, when you're not in it. But by the end of it, I am sitting there like with my arms open, and I have each of my children on one arm, and then my infant self is in the middle. And this voice says, it's all one and the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. This is from breath and sound.
This is from a holographic breathwork session. Yeah. And granted, we did prepare for this. Like, this was a whole weekend of like, holy shit, exercises and stuff to work up to this point. But so it was a trippy experience, but it was so deeply healing. And it took me a while to get back into my body after that, because it was like, I just had taken a journey off
Absolutely.
to
That's all.
many
That's
different
why.
dimensions of reality.
Yeah. That's why I
And
was
I
like,
got to,
wait, there's no plant medicine here. This is
no,
amazing.
I
Yeah.
was amazed, right?
Yeah.
So basically,
Mm-hmm.
what I got from that was that we can heal any parts of ourselves at any point in time. Time is not
Yep.
what we think it is.
Yep.
So it's possible to do that at any point, to heal all parts of yourself in all dimensions of reality. It just takes that presence with yourself. And then for me personally, it was me not containing it anymore. I didn't need to hold it in my body anymore. I could let it go.
Oh my God.
And
how
that's what I got to
powerful.
do. I got to do a do-over, and it was just an incredible experience. And so ever since then, it's like before, when I first started doing this voice work, it was like I was trying to push my voice through a straw. It was so tight in certain areas. And now it's just like a clear channel.
Wow.
And I believe it's because I was really holding parts of my voice in my body and suppressing them. So that's another way to look at it. What part of you
Love
really
it.
needed to, it could be just as simple as you just needing to scream or go somewhere and just do that, or experience like that full range of your voice in areas of your life that you didn't get to do that. So for me, that was so powerful and such a profound experience.